G'day everyone, welcome to the video. I'm Diani and this is Pepper. Pepper, say hello. Puppy. She's in her own little world here. She's looking out for kangaroos and bunny rabbits. Guys, if you're new here, Pepper and I live full-time in our Toyota Coaster bus. And at the moment we're in Deepwater, which is a little town on the New England Highway in northeast New South Wales. And we're staying at an awesome free camp here, which is just outside of the town. And it's really lovely. We've actually been staying here for 2 weeks, but it's time to move on today. So in this video, I thought I'd bring you guys along and just show you what a typical travel day looks like for us, like how I pack up the bus and secure everything for the drive and what we get up to when we move from one camp to the next. We are heading on to Tenterfield, which is only about 50 kilometers north of here, so not very far. But I need to do a few things in town here before we leave. I need to refill the water tanks because they're getting pretty low. And I also want to stock up on some fruit and veg at the little grocery shop in town while I'm here, and I have a couple of parcels to pick up from the post office in town as well. There's a few things that we need to do, so you know, nothing terribly exciting, no sightseeing or grand adventures or anything happening today. It's just a typical travel day, but yeah, I just thought I'd show you what it's like because it's part of living full-time in a bus. You just have these days where you need to move from one camp to another. Yeah, so I thought I'd bring you along and show you what we do. Alright guys, so we're back in the bus. I've had breakfast. Pepper's outside chilling on her bed. I've tidied up inside the bus as best I can. But there's quite a few things that normally just sit on the bench when we're parked up that I have to secure while we're driving. So the first thing is my water filter, which normally sits on the bench here, and the jugs that I use for the filtered drinking water. I haven't really talked about my water filter much, but basically when I fill up the tanks for the bus, I have an inline filter that connects to the hose. So I'm filtering the water as it's coming into the bus tanks. But I also then filter it again through this benchtop water filter here. And I use the filtered water from this for all my drinking and cooking water. And so the filter normally sits on the bench here, and I have these 2 jugs that are 5 litres each that I use to store my filtered drinking water. So, and they normally sit there too, but obviously they can't stay there. So the first thing I need to do is empty this filter because there's water in it. I had it filtering overnight. And I found on my first trip, if I travel with when there's like quite a bit of water in this, it'll spill. Even just like a little bit of vibration causes it to spill on the bench. So I always make sure that this is empty before we go anywhere. All right, so that's empty. So now what I do is, you can see on the wall, hopefully you can see on the wall here, I have these 2 brackets that I've screwed into the wall in here, and they're really secure because they're screwed with big screws into a stud. And I've got these 2 Velcro straps, oops, that I just thread through them. I bought these at Bunnings and they're really good. So what I do is I basically just put this in the corner and secure it with the Velcro. And that just secures it enough for when I'm driving. It's not going to fly off the bench. And then these containers I just put in the sink when I'm traveling. So one of the benefits of having a really big sink like this is it's a perfect place to store stuff when you're driving. I also have 2 more of these 5 litre jerry cans that I keep on board as well, just to have that extra little bit of water on top of what I can carry in the tanks. So I put all those in there, and I also put my dish rack in there, and I have to move you guys for a second. And the tray out of my oven. All of that goes in there. And that's all pretty secure, it's not going to come out. With the oven here, I use this strap to secure that when I'm driving. So I'll just pull this away from the wall. You can see I've got an eye bolt that's actually bolted in, and this is actually bolted in through the stud behind this wall. You can't see the other side of it now because I've done all the trim in front of it, but I installed this when I did the wall lining here, so it is bolted onto the stud. It is super solid, it's not going anywhere. And I have another one on this side. You can see that I've screwed into the wall here. So I just use this carabiner strap. I think I bought this from Anaconda, and I just wrap it around and secure it onto there, and that stops the oven. It stops the door from opening and all my trays falling out, for one thing, but it also stops the oven sliding off the bench. And on this side, this rubbish bin is actually stuck onto the bench with heavy duty Velcro, so it doesn't move. I just need to do something with my jug and also my paper towel here. So what I normally do is I just take the paper towel off, it just slots into there, so that stays there when I'm driving. And the paper towel I normally just shove into the cupboard anywhere here that I can fit it in. And it just goes in there, securely shut in there. And then this I'll actually put with some other stuff into the bathroom sink. So you just see I just put Pepper's bowls and the jug in the bathroom sink. And again, this thing that I keep my toothbrushes and toothpaste in is stuck to the bench with heavy duty Velcro, so it just stays in place, so I don't have to worry about that. I'll make sure the toilet's pushed all the way in, and my dirty laundry basket that normally just lives on top of the washing machine, I just put that on the floor, and I just let that sit on the floor when I'm driving. Okay, the other thing that's really important is to secure the fridge, because the last thing you want is for the fridge door to fly open when you're driving and all your food to come out and spill all over the floor. So what I do is I've got these same brackets here that I use to secure the water filter, and I've got one screwed into the wall here and another one down here, and on this side I've just got hooks, and I use these straps. I don't know if you can see. They're long Velcro straps, and I just bought these at Bunnings, and I have two of them. So what I do is they have this little plastic thing on the end, so I just hook that over the hook like that, and I wrap it around the door through this bracket in the wall, and then I do up the Velcro, and that is super strong, and that's enough to stop the door flying open. And I have another one down here for the freezer door. So it's super simple, but they work really well, and I've been over some pretty rough roads and the doors do not come open. And then of course I've always got to make sure that all the cupboard doors are firmly shut, because you don't want anything you don't want anything flying out when you're driving. I normally have these insulated window covers up in the cab while we're parked up, so I take them off. And I also need to pack away the Starlink. So what I normally do is unplug the cable from the dish end, and I always have to give it a clean just to make sure there's no dirt or ants or anything on it before I bring it back into the bus. And the dish I just put on my bed. I normally just throw the window covers on the top, pile all my cushions on top of that, and they stay put when I'm driving. Now with the cable for my Starlink, I actually run it up through the floor here. So this is a boat bung. Now you can get these from BCF. I think I bought this one. You cut a hole in the floor. This thing like screws down into it, and it has a cap that then screws into this. So I'll show you when I've pulled the cable out. But basically I use this to run the cable from my router, which I've just got mounted up under the table here. and down through the floor, and I plug it into my Starlink dish outside. So once I've unplugged the cable from the outside, I can just pull it all up through the floor. Like that. And then this cap just screws in like that and seals off the hole, so I don't get any exhaust fumes or anything from under the bus coming up while we're driving. I just use this cloth to shove down into the hole when the cable's there to stop critters coming up, and I spray this with peppermint oil to stop mice and ants and things from crawling up the hole. So I just leave that there. It's all there. And then the cable and the router I store in my shoebox here. It's a bit awkward to try and film in this space, guys. So I just have a box that I keep my shoes in under the table here, and when we're driving I just shove the Starlink cable and the router in that, and it all stays in there till I get to the next spot. I want to set up my Starlink again. I just pull it out and put the cable through the floor to the outside. Pepper's bed that normally lives in the cab, I take that out and I just shove it under my chair, under the table here. Just goes under there like that so it's out of the way. And with our camp chairs, I just lay them on the floor there. I don't even bother putting them back in the bags now because we unpack them as soon as we get to the next camp spot. So I just leave them folded up there on the floor, and they don't really slide around much. Need to remember to turn off the max fans before we drive so that the hoods are closed. You can actually drive with the hoods open. Don't ask me how I know this. But it's obviously better to have them closed just in case you get a gust of wind or, you know, some low-hanging trees. The last thing you want is for the hood to go flying off the roof. So always make sure that that's turned off. And I always switch the pump off as well when we're traveling, just in case the vibration causes a tap or something to come open. I don't want the pump to be pumping all my water out as we're driving along. So that's just a little extra thing that I do. I always try to fully pack up everything inside the bus before I take down the stuff outside, just because Pepper tends to get a little bit anxious when she knows that we're going to be driving in the bus. You'll see it if you watch closely here. When I first come out and put her harness on, she's quite happy. She probably thinks we're going for a walk. But as soon as I clip her lead to the side of the bus, you can see her body language change. Like the ears go back a little bit, the tail goes down. So she's definitely not happy. And so I try to do as much as possible before I have to start packing up around her and for her to realise that we're actually going to be driving. And the table and all the fencing just gets secured to the storage rack on the back of the bus. The doormat I usually just roll up and leave in the stairwell because it's one of the first things to come out when we get to our next spot. And then once everything is packed up and I'm ready to go, the last thing I do is just take Pepper for a quick walk. Firstly, it gives her an opportunity to sniff, and sniffing always relaxes her, so it's just a little bit of time for her to relax a little bit because she does get anxious when we're traveling. And second of all, I need her to go to the toilet before we hit the road. In this particular spot, I've also used the levelling blocks to level the bus, so I need to remember to get those before we head out. Deepwater first. It's only a few kilometres up the road here, because I've got to get my stuff from the post office, and I want to pick up some supplies while we're in town here too, just because it's really easy here. So first stop is the post office. I've actually got an order to post today as well, so I'll do that while we're here. And there's my parcels that I somehow have to find room for in the bus. Yeah, they'll just have to stay in there for now. There's a little rest area at one end of the town in Deepwater where there's picnic table and rubbish bins, and there's also a tap where you're allowed to fill up your water tanks for free. The tap here is really accessible. There's plenty of room to drive in, even if you've got a caravan hooked up. It's easy to drive in and get close enough to fill up your tanks. While I'm waiting for the tanks to fill, I'm taking the opportunity to empty my rubbish as well, because there's no rubbish bins back at the camp. So I had to hang on to my rubbish until we got back into town, and I could dispose of it here. The rest stop is right next door to the bakery in Deepwater, and they sell some really nice stuff. Today I decided to treat myself to one of their pies. This one's a truffle chicken pie, so it had chicken, truffle juice, sweet potato and spinach. Pie was so good. Oh, definitely recommend that if you're in Deepwater. Stop at the bakery and get a truffle chicken pie. Oh, that was so good. So I decided to fill the water tanks in Deepwater just because it's easy there. I mean, you can drive right up to where the tap is. It's free. It's just really easy to fill up there. And because I'm only staying at an unpowered site at the showgrounds in Tenterfield, I'm not sure how good the access to water is going to be, or whether I might have to pay extra for water there. If I was headed somewhere where I knew I could definitely fill up with water at my site and it wasn't going to be an issue, I probably wouldn't bother filling up the tanks at the start of a travel day. I would just wait till I got to my destination and filled up there. That can help a little bit with fuel consumption, because obviously the less water you're carrying in the tank, the less weight and the less fuel that you're going to burn driving it all. But you know, Tenterfield's only 50 k's from here, so we're not driving far today. And like I said, it's just so easy to fill up there in Deepwater. I thought I may as well do it. And then I've got enough water in the tanks now to last well over a week, which is how long I plan to spend in Tenterfield. So I don't have to worry about getting water at all while I'm there. I thoroughly enjoyed my stay there in Deepwater. That free camp was so nice. And you know, it's so wonderful that little country towns like that provide free camps like that. And I made sure while I was there that I spent money in the town and supported the businesses there. I mean, I went to that bakery a few times. I stocked up on fruit and veg a couple of times at the food works there in town. And I also had a few orders to post, so I spent a bit of money at the post office as well. So all up, I spent like over $150 in the town for the time I was there. So, but that's the thing, I would rather do that and spread my money around in a little community like that, rather than paying it all to the caravan park and then not having enough money to buy anything else while I was there. So yeah, so I did contribute for my 2 weeks of free camping, and thank you so much to the town of Deepwater for providing those facilities, because yeah, I mean, that's a little place that I otherwise probably wouldn't have even bothered stopping in. It's nice to know we've put a was pretty busy at the showgrounds. There were quite a few people parked up there when we arrived, but because we were on an unpowered site, we were able to park a little bit away from the crowd, and we actually scored a really nice spot right next to the creek. So instead of sitting outside the bus and looking at the neighbour's caravan, we were able to have a view of the trees and the bushes alongside the creek, and there was lots of bird life and some lizards to keep us entertained. I don't set up the awning at every campsite, but in this case we will need it for shade, and we're here for a week, so the extra setup time is not going to bother me. Well, that's it guys, it's officially the end of our travel day. Well, kind of, we've made it to the next destination. So that's pretty much how it goes. It takes a little bit of time to pack everything up and set it all up at the other end, but I tend to stay in campgrounds for a week or more at a time whenever I can, so a little bit of setup time at the beginning doesn't bother me because now we've got a good setup here and we should be right to stay here for the whole week. So I hope you found this interesting guys and helpful as well. It's a bit hard to film some of the things in detail when I'm on my own, but hopefully it gave you a good enough idea of what's involved and what we do on a typical travel day. If you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm just going to sit here and relax now at the camp for a couple of hours. Later on today, Pepper and I will go for our afternoon walk, and one of the best things about staying in the showgrounds here in Tenterfield is that they're right in town. So everything in town is within walking distance of where we're staying, so that's perfect. So we're going to go and have a wander around town this afternoon and get our bearings. I'm really looking forward to this week in Tenterfield. It's quite a dog-friendly town, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys, but you'll have to stay tuned for the next video.